Today we're going to do cost volume profit or CVP analysis. We're going to look at this decision case, and we have Quality Furniture here. They expect sales volume to increase by 25% this year. The good news is we don't need to be concerned with the sales volume increase right now because it's not going to change the sales price or the variable cost per unit. It says, to satisfy the demand for the product while keeping the sales price the same, the company is considering two alternatives. The first would increase fixed costs by 15% but would not affect variable costs, and the second would not affect fixed costs but would increase variable costs to 60% of the selling price. So we're keeping the selling price the same. They've given us the income statement for last year, and they said that last year we did 6,000 units, and then they're going to give us the cost. They did not tell us the sales price per unit or the variable cost. So that's the first thing we need to calculate. The way that we're going to calculate our variable cost per unit, we're going to take our last year's sales, and we're going to divide it by the last year's sales volume. So the last year's sales dollars, sales revenue, all mean the same thing, the sales dollars. So we're at 3.6 million. Last year's sales volume, it says, was 6,000 units. So we're going to take the 6,000 units, and then we're just going to divide. So that gives us a sales price per unit of $600. So that's last year's sales divided by the sales volume. We're going to do the same thing for variable costs. Last year's variable costs were $1,620,000. We're going to divide that by last year's sales volume, which was 6,000 units. And we're going to get a variable cost per unit. We are not going to do this for fixed costs. Why not? Because fixed cost doesn't vary per unit. It remains the same regardless of the number of units that we have. So now it's asking us to calculate the sales price and variable cost per unit, but we need to consider the changes that are made for the different alternatives. It says the first alternative would increase fixed costs by 15%, but would not affect variable costs. So for the first one, we're looking at a 15% increase in fixed costs and no change in the variable cost or the sales price. So how would we calculate a 15% increase in fixed costs? We would take last year's fixed costs of $330,000, multiply that by 15%, and then because it's an increase, we're going to add it to what was already there. So that's going to give me a new fixed cost for alternate 1 of $379,500. The second alternative, it says, would not affect fixed costs. So there's no change in fixed costs, so we're going to use the original amount of $330,000. But it would increase variable costs to 60% of the selling price. So, what is that telling us? That means the variable cost is 60% of the sales price, and there is no change to the fixed cost or the sales price. So we need the sales price per unit times 60%. Sales price per unit is $600. At 60%, that's going to give me an alternate cost of $360. So my alternative 2 is going to have a variable cost per unit of $360. Now we know what the changes are going to be with each alternative, and we know what the cost per units are. This is going to allow us to calculate the contribution margin per unit and ratio. So let's go to the contribution margin per unit. Contribution margin per unit is calculated as sales price per unit minus variable cost per unit. So let's start with alternative 1. Alternative 1 there is no change in variable costs or sales price, so we're going to take the original sales price of $600 and we're going to subtract the variable cost per unit of $270. That gives me a contribution margin per unit of $330 per unit. For alternative 2, we notice that we have a different variable cost per unit. We're at $360, but my sales price remains the same. So we're still at $600 per unit. We just have that different variable cost. So that makes my contribution margin per unit $240. Now we have our contribution margin ratio, which is calculated as the contribution margin divided by sales. This can be done two ways. This can be done per unit, or it can be done based on the total dollars. Either way will give you the same result because this is going to give you a ratio or a percentage. So either way is fine. But since we have everything all calculated by units, then we're just going to use units for this time. Alternative 1, we're looking at sales price per unit of $600, and we calculated contribution margin at $330. So my contribution margin divided by sales is going to give me 0.55, which is 55%. The contribution margin means for every dollar in sales, how much do we have left over for fixed costs? So in this case, for every dollar in sales, we have 55 cents left over to cover our fixed costs. We're going to do the same thing for alternative 2. Alternative 2, my contribution margin is $240 and my sales price is still $600. That's going to give me a contribution margin ratio of 40% or 40 cents on every dollar. So for every dollar that I have in sales, 40 cents is left over for fixed costs. We will be using the contribution margin per unit and contribution margin ratio when we calculate our break-even points next. So the next step says determine the break-even point in sales units and sales dollars under each alternative. Do not consider next year's increase in sales volume. Why are we not including next year's sales increase in sales volume? Because the sales volume does not change the cost per unit. So the first thing we need to do is our break-even in sales units. How do we calculate our break-even in sales units? We take our fixed costs and we divide it by the contribution margin per unit. For alternative 1, we varied our fixed costs. We took the original amount and we increased them by 15%, so that gave us an amount of $379,500. The contribution margin per unit we calculated in part 2 at $330 per unit. So that gives me a break-even point of 1,150 units. For alternative 2, my fixed costs remain the same, so we look back to the problem and it said we had 330,000. So we're going to include those. And my contribution margin ratio from part 2 was my contribution margin per unit was $240, which is going to give me break even in sales units of $1,375. We're going to repeat the process for our break even in sales dollars. That is calculated as fixed costs divided by the contribution margin ratio. The contribution margin ratio we also calculated in part 2. It was 0.55 or 55% for alternative 1 and 0.4 or 40% for alternative 2. Our fixed costs are going to be the same. that we reported in the break-even in sales units. So to get our break-even in sales dollars, we need $690,000 under alternative 1 and $825,000 in alternative 2. There is another method to calculate the break-even in sales dollars. You can take the break-even point in sales units and multiply it by the sales price per unit. You will get the same result. Now, question becomes, which alternative would you choose? Which one would you recommend? Alternative 1 or alternative 2? When we're looking at break-even points, we want to go with the one that has the lowest amount, because the lowest amount of units required to break even gives us the best opportunity to earn more profit. So, what should we do? We should definitely go with alternative 1. Alternative 1 is less than alternative 2 in both units and dollars, which it would be, right? So we only need $690,000 to break even under alternative 1, and we would need $825,000 under alternative 2. Next, it wants us to say, using the alternative you recommend in part 4, which is alternative 1, if alternative 1 is what we're going with, what would the sales units and dollars be required to earn before tax income of $2 million? When we have these formulas, they're basically the same that we used before. The only difference being we're taking fixed costs plus the target income as the numerator, and then we're still dividing it by contribution margin per unit or contribution margin ratio. This is the same formulas that we've used because at break-even, target income is 0. So, in this case, we don't want 0. We want a target income of $2 million. So we take our fixed costs plus $2 million divided by the contribution margin, and we determine that we need 7,211 units. Whenever you have decimals for units, we always have to round up because we can't sell a part of a unit. So we do need to consider that. When we do our sales dollars that are required, we're going to use the contribution margin ratio of 0.55 or 55%, and we need approximately $4.3 million to break even. Is that enough? So it's saying, with the expected sales volume increase of 25%, is it possible to make $2 million next year? Why or why not? So what would be the first thing that we would need to know? We would need to know what the sales volume for next year or this year is going to be with the 25% increase. So we have last year's sales volume, which was 6,000 units. If we take a 25% increase, so we take that 6,000 times 25%, we get 1,500, and that's going to give me a sales volume of 7,500 units. If I multiply that sales volume by $600, I get $4.5 million in expected sales revenue. So that is fantastic news, because this is $4.5 million, and I would need $4,326,000 in order to make $2 million of net income. So, yes, it is possible, because I need 7,200 units approximately, and I'm expecting to sell 7,500 units. So I'm in good shape to make even more than $2 million of before-tax net income. Hope this helps. See you soon.